A hiking trip in Chile turned into one of the Cold War's darkest mysteries. A brilliant mathematician vanishes without a trace. The trail leads to a Nazi cult, a secret police agency, and possibly the CIA. This is the story of Boris Weisfeiler, the mathematician who vanished. A lonely trail in Chile, Cold War headlines, black and white photos of Weisfeiler, and a blurred document with the word classified. Boris Weisfeiler was not a spy, at least not in any official capacity. He was a brilliant mathematician, Russian-born, Jewish, an immigrant to the United States. By the early 1980s, he had become a respected professor at Pennsylvania State University. Fluent in Russian, English, and math, Boris was known for his sharp intellect, quiet demeanor, and intense curiosity about the world. But he had another passion: hiking. He often ventured into remote areas, chasing solitude, beauty, and adventure. In December 1984, Boris made a bold decision. He booked a solo hiking trip to one of the most remote parts of the world, the Andes Mountains of Chile. He told friends and family he was going for a vacation. Nothing unusual, no political agendas, just nature, fresh air, and the mountains. But he never returned. On January 4th, 1985, Boris Weisfeiler was declared missing. Chilean police found his backpack and some clothing near a river in the Ñuble region. The area was remote, rugged, and filled with dense forests and mountain passes. Locals initially believed he had drowned, but here's where things get strange. According to an early police report, a group of military officers, possibly from Chile's Carabineros, police, had encountered an unidentified foreigner near a restricted area. That foreigner matched Boris's description. Soon after, whispers began to surface. Boris hadn't drowned. He had been arrested. But by whom? And why? To understand what might have happened to Boris Weisfeiler, we have to dive into the shadows of Cold War Chile. After a US-backed coup in 1973, Chile was under the brutal dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. His secret police, called DINA, were notorious for torture, disappearances, and executing perceived enemies of the regime. But even within that dark ecosystem, one place stood out: Colonia Dignidad. Founded by a former Nazi named Paul Schaefer, Colonia Dignidad was a sealed, self-sufficient compound in southern Chile. Officially, it was a charitable religious commune. Unofficially, it was a fortress. Surrounded by electrified fences and guard towers, the colony operated like a cult, isolated from the outside world. Schaefer, known as the Permanent Uncle, ruled with absolute control. Inside, children were abused, dissidents were tortured, and arms were stored. Over the years, Colonia Dignidad became a favorite outpost for DINA. Intelligence agents used the compound to interrogate and disappear prisoners. And here's the kicker: the location where Boris vanished, just miles from the colony's outer perimeter. Back in the US, Boris's family began asking questions, but they were met with silence, delays, and red tape. In 2015, years after his disappearance, new evidence emerged. Declassified US documents revealed that American intelligence had suspected that Boris was detained by Chilean security forces and possibly handed over to Colonia Dignidad. One CIA cable stated that Weisfeiler was seen alive and in custody after his arrest. Another document suggested he was viewed as a Russian or Jewish spy. An absurd but dangerous assumption during Cold War paranoia. The Chilean government denied everything. But so did the US. Despite clear signs of foul play, the US State Department remained largely passive. Requests for pressure on Chilean authorities were brushed aside. Key documents were heavily redacted. Investigations stalled. No one was held accountable. Why the silence? Some believe the US wanted to protect its covert relationship with the Pinochet regime. Others suspect deeper involvement, that Boris's arrest may have triggered intelligence interest that outweighed any efforts to rescue him. In either case, one truth was clear: Boris had become inconvenient. In the early 2000s, Chile began to reckon with its past. Dozens of human rights investigations were launched. Colonia Dignidad was raided. Paul Schaefer, who had fled to Argentina, was captured and later died in prison. Inside the compound, authorities found underground detention cells, surveillance equipment, and a mass grave. Former members of the colony came forward. Some claimed they had seen foreign prisoners. Others admitted to collaborating with DINA. In 2013, a Chilean government commission officially declared that Boris Weisfeiler had been detained by police and later disappeared with the involvement of Colonia Dignidad. But no body was found, no definitive proof, just rumors, files, and silence. Boris's sister, Olga, spent decades campaigning for justice. She met with U.S. officials, held press conferences, and demanded the truth. But even today, the U.S. government has never officially confirmed what happened to Boris. So what happened to Boris Weisfeiler? Let's break down the leading theories. Theory number 1, accidental drowning. This was the Chilean government's original position. They claimed Boris slipped while crossing a river and was swept away. But his belongings were found neatly folded. His passport was dry, and a witness claimed to have seen him after his supposed drowning. Theory number 2, arrest and execution by DINA. This is supported by CIA documents and Chilean records. If Boris was seen as suspicious, a foreigner near a military zone, DINA may have arrested him. Once in custody, he could have been interrogated, tortured, and executed. Theory number 3, detained at Colonia Dignidad. Many believe he was taken to the colony. Once inside, it would have been nearly impossible to escape. Witnesses described torture chambers and underground cells. If Boris was seen as a threat, or worse, a spy, he may have been killed there. Theory number 4, CIA knowledge or involvement. This theory suggests that U.S. intelligence may have known more than they admitted. Whether because of diplomatic sensitivities or covert operations in the region, it's possible that the U.S. allowed the case to be buried. Boris Weisfeiler disappeared over 40 years ago, but his case remains open. No body, no trial, no accountability, just fragments, a backpack, a witness statement, a declassified memo, and a grieving sister still asking, why? In a world shaped by politics, power, and paranoia, the truth often becomes collateral damage. Boris wasn't a soldier, he wasn't a spy. He was a mathematician, a man who loved numbers, nature, and quiet places. But he may have stepped into a storm far bigger than he could imagine. Was Boris Weisfeiler just an unlucky hiker? Or a pawn caught between the CIA, Chile's secret police, and a Nazi stronghold hiding in South America? What do you think happened? Drop your theories in the comments. This was episode 2 of Cold War Shadows. Make sure to subscribe, because the next mystery might be even darker. Want to support the fight for truth? Visit the link in the description, share this video, keep asking questions. The Cold War may be over, but some of its secrets are still buried in the shadows.